Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses, through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Hello and welcome to the ISO Show. My name is Steph Churchman and I'm the Communications Manager here at Blackmores. Today we're going to be focusing on integrated management systems, explaining why you may consider implementing an IMS in addition to the challenges and benefits of doing so. If you're not familiar with the term Integrated Management System, or IMS, it simply refers to a management system based off certification to multiple ISO standards. So, for example, a company may be certified to ISO 9001, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001, but will only have one management system rather than three separate systems. Many organisations simply refer to these as a business management system, or they may have their own unique name for it based off their own branding. Either way, that's the general idea of an IMS. We've noticed a sharp increase in companies opting to implement an integrated management system right from the start, whereas 10 years ago, many would have started with just one ISO standard and then added more a couple of years down the line. It seems to be becoming the preferred option for many, as multiple ISO standards are now being required by various stakeholders, or for anyone going to tender. And for many startups, it's also seen as an essential key to not only get started on the right path, but to build a strong foundation for scaling up. Now, integrating ISO standards has thankfully become easier over the years, and this is due in large part to the introduction of the Annex SL format. For those who might be new to ISO standards as a whole, the Annex SL format was applied to most ISO standards back in 2015, and this format helped to create a consistent structure which basically makes it a lot easier to integrate multiple ISO standards. Before this was introduced, it was a lot more challenging to create a single integrated management system, depending on the standards that you were certified to. This was because clauses didn't align across multiple standards, and it made auditing much more challenging than it needed to be, which is why Annex SL became a necessary and very welcome change. Nowadays, standards are typically structured like this. The first three clauses are explanatory clauses. These will give you more context for the purpose of the standards, as well as providing a helpful glossary of terms and definitions that you'll come across in the standard. These clauses aren't audited against, so the real work starts from Clause 4, which is context of the organisation. This is where you'll be establishing your scope, your interested parties, and looking at where your risks and opportunities are. It's setting the foundation for your management system and looking at what you've got in place that can contribute to building it. Then next you have Clause 5, which is leadership. This is where you'll need commitment from top management. A management system doesn't go very far if it's not being pushed from the top. So they will need to be involved in establishing key policies, assigning roles and responsibilities, and communicating the management system once you're ready to launch it. Then we move on to Clause 6, planning. This is where you will look at the risks and opportunities raised during the context phase and plan what actions you'll take to address them. This is in addition to setting your business objectives, which will be focused on the management system subject areas, for example, environmental and information security objectives. Next is Clause 7, Support. This is where you will establish the resources you have available to create and facilitate the running of the management system. This clause gives you guidance for considerations such as people, infrastructure, monitoring and measurement needs, competence of staff, and key communication requirements. And then we move on to Clause 8, Operation. This clause is where the main differences can be found between ISO standards. While it's true that the structure is largely the same, there will be clauses unique to certain standards due to the nature of their focus. So, for example, ISO 14001 includes a clause for emergency preparedness that's specific to responding to an environmental incident. This, of course, wouldn't be included in standards such as ISO 9001 or ISO 27001. This clause provides guidance on considerations for key processes and procedures relating to the standard focus. ISO 9001, for example, contains a rather chunky Clause 8, as it details requirements for products and services, including the development and provision of them, while ISO 27001's Clause 8 focuses more on information security risk assessments and risk treatment plans. Next is Clause 9, Performance Evaluation. This is where you establish the who, what, and when involved in the monitoring, measurement, and evaluation of your management system. This is also where everyone's favourite aspect of ISO implementation and certification is detailed, that being internal audits. These are an unavoidable part of the process, but serve as a way to see if your system is working for you, to highlight any opportunities for improvement, and to catch any areas of non-conformance to be resolved. And then finally, we have Clause 10, Continual Improvement. This is the driving force of all ISO standards. And while earning initial certification is a huge achievement, it's important to note that these standards simply provide a starting point. They are considered the bare minimum and provide a solid base for you to drive your own initiatives forward. In this last clause, you'll also find requirements for management review and non-conformity and corrective action. So that's simply about reviewing the effectiveness of the management system and putting plans in place to correct any non-conformities raised or act on any of those opportunities for improvement. So that's quite a lot in a short space of time, but that is basically the Annex SL format in a nutshell. I did say that most of the differences lie in Clause 8, but there are other additional requirements that are specific to certain standards, sprinkled throughout the other clauses, but the main structure is the same, meaning it's a hell of a lot easier to integrate them than it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago. But why should you? I'm probably a bit biased here, as integrated management systems is something we're very familiar here with at Blackmores. Around 90% of our existing client base hold more than one ISO certification, and an increasing amount of new clients are opting for multiple certifications right from the start. And there's a lot of good reasons for this, so let's go through a few. Number 1 is cost saving. This is probably the big one for many. If you've been through the certification process, then you know it can get costly, especially if you're investing in help with a consultancy to help with implementation, in addition to the certification body costs involved in the actual assessment. You can save money by implementing multiple ISO standards at the same time, and at Blackmores we're more than happy to help you do this. This saves on time spent if you were to do them separately, as we typically combine elements of the selected standards in some of the project days, such as during the gap analysis or document creation and internal auditing. And on the certification body side, you can save on assessment days by assessing against an integrated management system rather than assessing against two separate management systems. Most will do their best to accommodate an integrated assessment and surveillance audits, but I will note that for certain specialty standards this may not always be feasible. But for most widely adopted ISO standards, this really shouldn't be an issue. Moving on to benefit number 2, reduced duplication and increased efficiency. As mentioned, there are elements of a management system that you can combine to not only save money, but also reduce document and process duplication, which can often lead to a more efficient system. We've seen companies trying to manage separate systems over the years, and oftentimes it just ends up causing confusion, or being adhered to only specific departments within a business. This just ends up creating duplicated work, as shared elements of compliance are being managed in two different ways, often with slightly different document styles, many of which just get shoved into files on a shelf or in a drawer and seldom looked at until it's time for a surveillance or recertification audit. Being isolated in that way hinders any chance at real improvement. It's simply a case of keeping the systems ticking over to hold certification, so you're not really getting any proper benefits out of it. So save yourself the trouble and headache by integrating all relevant management system documentation into one system. It makes it so much easier to update and keep on top of, and to actually enable it to act as a real tool for continual improvement rather than being thought of as a chore to upkeep. And that segues quite nicely into benefit number 3, improved communication and collaboration. An integrated management system encourages communication between all elements of your business. From the top down, everyone will be singing from the same song sheet and contributing their own lyrics, if you want to carry on with that analogy. An IMS is often referred to as a business management system for a reason. It's applicable to everyone regardless of the number and focus of subject areas included, and everyone needs to adhere to the policies and procedures included. This holistic approach is often broken down into silos for select departments to focus on select objectives, which in turn encourages invested teamwork which will contribute to the business's success as a whole. Internal audits also allow employees from every level to feed back to the system, highlighting key areas for improvement that could be rolled out. We see a lot of companies leveraging integrated management systems in various ways, often using them as a springboard to launch company-wide initiatives that encourage further collaboration. These initiatives are then tracked and monitored and reported on in a similar way to other company objectives, all guided by the processes put in place by the original business management system. Moving on to benefit number 4, enhanced risk management. Integrating multiple standards will mean you have a greater comprehension and risk assessment of multiple different aspects across your business, such as quality, environment, and health and safety. Many businesses do start with ISO 9001, as that's a fantastic solid foundation for a management system. It builds in all the core policies and procedures needed to run a business smoothly. But it doesn't touch on the specifics of environmental management or information security. For that, you need to integrate other standards to ensure you have robust measures to tackle those other elements. And that's not to say that you have to certify to all of these standards, as we understand how costly multiple certifications can get past a certain point. There's a lot of valuable guidance included in ISO standards, and you can simply choose to align with select standards, so you can integrate their elements and get all the benefits, but simply won't have to get a certificate for them. Next, benefit number 5, streamlined auditing processes. Internal audits are unavoidable. It's an unavoidable part of the implementation process, I'm afraid. But they do act as a good measure of where things are going right and wrong, in addition to being a dummy run for your certification assessment if it's your first time going through the process. Internal audits are also an element which can be combined, so no need to conduct separate audits for each management system standard. This allows for you to save time for any auditees involved, which reduces the amount of disruption they may cause overall. It also reduces the overall amount of audit reports you'll have to review, saving a duplication of effort on auditing similar elements across multiple different standards. And that in turn can help with the next benefit, better decision making. By having a more unified view of all your processes and performance across different management areas, leadership can make more informed decisions. All ISO standards include that need for management review. This can be conducted in any way that fits you best. This could be either an annual meeting that you do or spread across existing meetings with relevant personnel over the course of the year. It's completely up to you. There are many different ways you can conduct this, but the important part is reviewing the results of internal audits, which will reveal if there are any non-conformities and give you a chance to discuss possible solutions with leadership, in addition to any opportunities for improvement. And it's also a great chance to highlight the good too. Highlight where things are going well and make sure those are celebrated and any lessons learned applied to other areas of the business. Integrated management systems allow you to view this from multiple different angles, and while you may think some departments may not be affected by such elements as environmental concerns or information security, there are always takeaways that you can apply business-wide. And then moving on to benefit number 7, increased stakeholder confidence. ISO standards are a mark of best practice. They're an internationally recognised seal of approval that proves your commitment to either quality, safety, and sustainability. For many, ISO certification may not be a choice, as it will be a stakeholder requirement by either customers, investors, or regulators. Startups with aspirations of scaling quickly will often seek certification to multiple standards early on. This helps them build a strong foundation for effective business management that will grow with them. This competitive advantage will serve you well when going for funding or for tender. And then lastly, improved organisational performance and culture. As mentioned, an integrated management system ensures that everyone is unified in their way of working. It also fosters a culture of continual improvement that encourages participation from all levels within the business. Having a central integrated system makes things simple for everyone to understand. No one has to search out different processes for separate quality and environmental management systems when they can all be combined and stored in one location. So this works both on combining policies, processes, and documentation where possible, but also just making them easily accessible. A management system won't be very effective if people can't find what they're looking for, so making it as simple as possible is the key. And we're far past the days of a printed management system collecting dust on a shelf somewhere. Nowadays, organisations typically make use of things like Teams channels, a SharePoint, or other intranet systems to make their management systems accessible. It's best to integrate it with the tools that you're already using on a daily basis. An integrated management system approach also allows for you to collaborate across multiple different focus areas such as quality, safety, and sustainability. Objectives for each can be siloed and focused on select departments, but they can still be contributed to from any part of the business. And it's important to be open about the results in different areas of the business and encourage suggestions for improvement. This is how you'll foster a culture of continuous improvement. So that's a lot of good that can come from an integrated management system. But there are also some challenges that you'll need to be aware of, including initial setup and resourcing. Implementing ISO standards isn't a small task. If you're implementing multiple ISO standards from the start, you'll need to consider the people, time, and expertise needed to complete the task. This may include the assistance of a dedicated ISO consultancy, as they'll have the expertise to guide you through the process smoothly. At Blackmores, we ensure that your management system is bespoke to the way that you work, which is key if it's ever going to be fully integrated into the business. Some may offer some tempting out-of-the-box solutions, but these are simply generic documentation that won't align with your values and will serve as a rather expensive waste of time that fails to drive continual improvement. They most likely won't get you past certification with a UCAS accredited body either. And again, for those unfamiliar with the term UCAS accredited body, we did do a previous podcast explaining the difference between a non-UCAS and UCAS accredited body in more detail. I'll link that in the show notes. But very basically, UCAS are the official accreditation body for the UK. They accredit certification bodies who issue ISO certificates to businesses. If the CB isn't UCAS accredited, their certification is essentially worthless. Anyway, back onto the main point. Implementing an integrated management system isn't a small task, so this will involve dedicated people, training, time, and costs to implement. So just something to keep in mind. Challenge number 2. You may encounter some resistance to change. This is more usually the case with medium to large organisations where people will be used to working a certain way, often siloed into systems unique to their departments. Or, if you've already held an ISO standard, integrating others will mean change to that existing system that others may not be open to at first. It will involve either new or updated policies and procedures that will take some time for everyone to adapt to. The key here is communication. Not only to communicate the change, allow people to voice any concerns they have about new ways of working. You may need to issue additional training to help others adapt. At the end of the day, an integrated management system only works if it's collaborative. Allow people from all areas of the business to have their input and implement any relevant feedback. Moving on to challenge number 3, lack of top leadership commitment. We've seen this quite a lot, sadly. Many see ISO certification as a tick for certain requirements and nothing else. This often results in a lack of interest from top management. They simply just want to know if certification is gained and maintained, and that's it, and you're not going to get any real benefit from that. If you want people to care about the management system, commitment to it needs to come from the top down. Put it this way, if leadership doesn't care about it, why should anyone else? And again, perhaps I'm biased, but from my perspective, any good leadership will want a holistic approach for monitoring various elements of the business, if only to make more informed decisions. An integrated management system can provide the base to facilitate this, and it's in leadership's best interest to keep ahead of any emerging challenges or opportunities that can be leveraged. Challenge number 4 is more on the technical side. Integrating your management system may require the integration of IT systems and existing data. If you have separate management systems currently, they may be operating on different databases or formats that might be difficult to combine. In some cases, an integrated management system is a good opportunity to refresh the way you work. It could be seen as a chance to look at other tech options out there that could be more cost-effective or introduce much-needed new functionality. Of course, we understand that when it comes to tech, it can be hard to make the change from an established system, so it may require some troubleshooting to figure out what solution would work best for you, which will serve the needs of the integrated management system and the way that you work. And then lastly, challenge number 5, maintaining scope and avoiding overcomplication. There is a risk that you may try to bite off a bit more than you can chew when integrating management systems. We've known businesses who want to certify to more than, say, 7 ISO standards at one time, and we've had to talk them down a few standards to make it both feasible not only from an operations and resourcing point of view, but also a cost perspective too. And don't get us wrong, we really do love the enthusiasm, but we don't want your experience with integrating management systems to be a painful one. Challenging, maybe, but it should be worth the reward. We do recommend starting with a smaller scope, as this acts as a good test that can be rolled out to the wider business if it's effective. Many may start with just one site and then seek to roll out the changes to the wider business over the course of a few years. This is definitely an approach we encourage, as each location will have its own teething problems to work through, which is much more manageable when tackled in chunks at a time rather than all at once. So, that's a really quick summary of some of the benefits and challenges of integrated management systems. And as I've said throughout, we're seeing these increase in popularity, and it's not a trend that's slowing down anytime soon. If you'd like to have a chat about integrating your existing management systems or about implementing an IMS from the start, feel free to contact us. We'd be more than happy to help. Our team have over 18 years of experience implementing and working with integrated management systems, and we like to think of it as a specialty of ours, especially with the range of ISO standards that we can assist with. So yeah, either give us a ring or contact us via our website www.blackmoresuk.com. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, I'd just like to take a few seconds to remind you to like and share this podcast on your preferred media player. And if you have a few minutes to spare, we'd really appreciate a nice shiny 5-star review, as this really do help us reach a wider audience. As always, if you have any topic or guest suggestions, feel free to email them to inquiries@blackmoresuk.com. That's all from me today. I look forward to catching up with you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.